So I solo traveled across Europe and it changed my life. Growing up in Canada, I've always felt as if I was living in a bubble. I would go to the same restaurants, same hiking spots, and make the occasional trip to Toronto. Life seemed repetitive, and don't get me wrong, there's nothing really wrong about repetitiveness. I was comfortable, but sometimes change is essential to growth, and I feel like I embrace change pretty well. I've always wanted to travel a lot because I really enjoy exploring the unknown and living life to the fullest. So I went on an exchange program in London for a semester. And I thought it'd be a great opportunity to travel and explore what Europe has to offer. I went to over 10 countries alone in the span of 3 weeks, living in hostels, eating great food, and exploring countless cities. So let me share my story and take you on my personal journey to self-discovery and how traveling truly changed my life. So during Easter break, I stuffed everything I could into a backpack and parted to Paris. I didn't really do that much planning. I just had an idea of what countries I wanted to go to and impulsively trained everywhere using an Interrail pass, which came in clutch many times. Paris was the first country on my trip coming out of London. It's my first time alone, so I was excited and anxious at the same time. I was constantly worried about losing my passport or getting my phone stolen, since Europe is notorious for pickpockets. Studying interior design, I've come to appreciate historical buildings more and more as I learn about these in my history classes. My professor used to explain every bit of the building in so much detail, which was so fascinating to me since I never thought about architecture and interiors that way. Having some knowledge before going, it made me want to really go out of my way to explore new spaces and develop an even greater appreciation. I then made stops in Luxembourg and Brussels, which had some really beautiful architecture and scenery straight out of a Disney movie. The food in Brussels was amazing as well. By the time I ended up in Amsterdam on day 5, I was starting to get the hang of traveling alone. I would spend the night before planning out my trips on Apple Maps and booking hotels, hostels, and trains for upcoming days. I was starting to come out of my shell a little bit more and recording more of my adventures. One of my first big activities was going on a boat tour by myself.
In winter, when the temperature stays cold for a couple of days, we block off this side and that side of the canal so that the canal can freeze.
Before, I would care about how other people would perceive me. Maybe they would think I was a loner. But at that point in the trip, I didn't care, and I realized that even if they thought that, I was never going to see them again anyways. And I wasn't going to let some stranger stop me from having once-in-a-lifetime experiences. As I'm training several hours a day, I started to admire the towns and landscapes that would pass by as I observed them from the comfort of my train seat. Quaint towns, each one being unique, would seamlessly blend into the landscape, with the church often peeking upwards. I caught glimpses of locals enjoying their day, whether they were playing football or soccer for us North Americans, shopping for groceries, or just making their way around town. It feels as though you're stepping back in time and witnessing the historic charm away from the modern world. So I'm glad I decided to take the train rather than fly with Ryanair. I was starting to get used to living in hostels, especially after my questionable experience in Prague.
So this is my dorm in Prague. It's a complete mess. Oh my god, there's food on the counter. Oh god. I was supposed to get the middle bed, but someone came and took it for me, so I'm stuck with the top bunk. But I mean, it's yeah, I don't know. This guy, I think this guy lives here. Yeah, this guy probably lives here, and then everyone else are just like travelers like me.
I was used to someone taking my bed, loud snoring, and sleeping with 8 or 10 people in one room. It was definitely a budget-friendly way of traveling, but it was also a great way for meeting new people. So I spent my time in the next few cities going to viewpoints, seeing breathtaking architecture, and visiting museums and religious buildings. I've always been intrigued by Italian culture, whether it is through art, food, or its history. So I spent most of my travels in Italy, going through as many cities as I could to experience what this beautiful country has to offer. And it was the first time in my trip where I finally stayed in a hotel room instead of a hostel. So I just walked into my room and oh my god, this is actually so nice. Okay, let's do a room tour. So, first impression. Oh my god, they have like an actual painting. Looks really nice. And then they have, oh, look at that. The bed sheets. Oh, the bed frame and the wallpaper. It's so nice. I think it all pairs well together. And then the curtains too. And you have the exposed wood joists. What? Okay, and then the washroom. They have a bidet, which I actually never used before, so maybe I'll try it out. Having a hotel room made me feel at peace, and I felt like I had more freedom to do whatever I wanted without disturbing others. It was definitely nice to have my own shower and sink. There are pros and cons with hotels and hostels, and I'm glad I had a good mix throughout Europe. Hotels offered a relaxing stay, while hostels allowed me to be more extroverted and meet fellow travelers. I learned a lot about the Renaissance period and visited many of the great masterpieces. The Sistine Chapel and David by Michelangelo, School of Athens by Raphael, Laocoon and his Sons in the Vatican, and many more works of art from various museums and churches. It was quite inspiring to see and learn about these artworks, as they have such a rich history with strong historical significance to the people of Italy. Artwork fuels culture in Italy. It is so embedded in Italian identity, as I've seen in their architecture, sculptures, and paintings. After my time there, I definitely grew a greater appreciation for craftsmanship and the great artists of the Renaissance. The last part of my trip quickly became my favorite, since I was homesick from Canada and being near nature reminded me of Canadian landscape. I also felt super drained from being in new cities constantly, and I wanted some time to relax. Switzerland and Liechtenstein ended up being my favorite countries, as they both had amazing landscapes and was relatively free of tourists. It's so beautiful here. And I just noticed the architecture here is quite interesting. Look at this house over here. It's what? It's probably not even a house, but it's oh, it's this. But what? There's also barely any tourists here, which is amazing because you just feel like you're with the locals. It just feels more authentic. But anyways, I'm gonna try to go and climb the mountain to get a good view. I don't think I can actually visit the castle, but yeah, that's the plan. So I'm heading down the mountain now, and I'm on my way to another castle called the Gutenberg Castle, which is in a small town, kind of 10-minute bus ride away from Vaduz. I think the town is called Balzers. I can't wait for the pronunciation, but yeah, that's the plan. Okay, I'll see you guys there. Little did I know this small castle would become the highlight of my trip, making it a perfect final destination. Okay, this is probably the best view I've ever had, ever. Oh my god. And I'm by myself too. There's literally no one else here. It's the standalone castle in the middle of nowhere. Kind of crazy. I'm speechless. I kind of want to document my journey while I'm traveling more, just because I want to remember where I've been to, what I've done, and kind of my thoughts while I'm traveling. And I think this is nice. It's a nice way of kind of journaling visually for me. It's because I've never really been into journaling. I tried for a few weeks, and it's always been on and off. I always like forget to journal or get too lazy to write. So I also hate writing. But yeah, this is it's a good way to remember, for sure. Since I was alone the entire time, I had a lot of time to reflect and learn about myself. Whether it is exploring what I truly enjoyed in life or testing my physical capabilities, the trip really did change my life. I'm super glad that I went on this trip and stepped outside of my comfort zone to experience the world outside Canada. I will cherish these memories and hopefully in the future go on more travels. I learned to be comfortable with my own presence since I was alone 90% of the time and had so much time to reflect and understand myself more. I've developed a new sense of confidence and adventure, and I really can't wait for what's to come in 2024. Cheers to more travels and living life. Thank you for watching.